What would you do if your family called you worthless? That night at the Massachusetts General Hospital charity gala, I stood before 500 of Boston's medical elite with a $2 million donation check in my hand. The same family who threw me out for quitting med school sat frozen at table one, their champagne glasses suspended mid-air. My father, the great Dr. Richard Sterling, had once shouted, "Get out and stay out," when I chose digital art over his surgical legacy. My mother called it playing with computers. They had no idea their family disappointment was worth $25 million. If you're watching this, please subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. I'm Olivia Sterling, and this is the story of how I went from being disowned for destroying the family legacy to becoming my family's biggest financial shock. The Sterling name meant something in Boston. 4 generations of doctors, each one more distinguished than the last. My great-grandfather founded the cardiac wing at Mass General. My grandfather pioneered transplant surgery. My father ran the entire hospital, and my mother performed miracles with her scalpel every Tuesday and Thursday. Our family dinners weren't about passing the salt, they were medical conferences disguised as meals. While my brother James described his latest neurosurgery rotation, detailing how he'd assisted in removing a tumor the size of a golf ball, I sat quietly, sketching patterns on my napkin. The human brain he dissected with such pride looked like abstract art to me, beautiful in its complexity, but not something I wanted to slice open. "Olivia, stop doodling," my mother would say without looking up from her medical journal. "We're discussing James's future fellowship." Every Sterling for 4 generations had held a scalpel. The weight of that legacy pressed down on me like a lead apron in an X-ray room. My acceptance letter to Harvard Medical School had been framed before I'd even opened it. They'd already picked my specialty, cardiothoracic surgery, like Mother. "Medicine isn't just our profession," my father announced that night, raising his wine glass. "It's our identity, our gift to the world. Every Sterling has advanced the field. James will continue that tradition." He paused, his eyes landing on me. "As will Olivia." I smiled and nodded, the good daughter playing her part. Under the table, my phone buzzed with a notification from my anonymous Instagram account. Another commission request, another person who wanted to buy my digital garbage, as my family would later call it. 50,000 followers who had no idea that @DigitalDreamer95 was supposed to be studying anatomy textbooks instead of creating art that made them feel something. My real life began at midnight. While my family slept, dreaming of surgical procedures and medical breakthroughs, I came alive in the glow of my laptop screen. Digital art wasn't just a hobby, it was my oxygen in a house that smelled perpetually of antiseptic and ambition. That first PayPal notification still makes my heart race when I think about it. $500 for a piece that took me 3 hours to create. A stranger in Germany had seen my work, felt something, and decided it was worth more than my monthly allowance. That notification felt more real than any medical textbook ever did. I'd hidden my laptop under medical journals, cleared my browser history religiously, and kept 3 different password-protected folders labeled study materials, research papers, and clinical notes. Inside them lived my true education, tutorials on digital painting, cryptocurrency wallets for NFT sales, and correspondence with collectors around the world. "You're up late studying again," my mother said one night, appearing in my doorway at 2 a.m. I minimized everything with practice speed, pulling up a preloaded anatomy webpage. "Just reviewing for tomorrow's exam," I lied, my heart hammering against my ribs. She smiled approvingly. "That's my girl. A Sterling never settles for less than perfect." After she left, I returned to my real work, a commissioned piece for a tech startup in Silicon Valley. They wanted something that captured innovation meets humanity. The irony wasn't lost on me. Here I was, creating humanity through pixels, while my family wanted me to understand it through corpses. My anonymous account grew steadily. 50,000 followers became 60, then 70. Commission requests poured in faster than I could complete them, But every notification felt like a betrayal. Every success a step further from the life mapped out for me in sterile hospital corridors. The anatomy midterm stared back at me. 150 questions about the human body that I was supposed to answer with clinical precision. Second year of medical school, halfway to becoming another sterling success story. But my mind wasn't on the test. My phone, hidden in my pocket, vibrated with an email I'd been waiting for. A venture capitalist in Palo Alto wanted to discuss my NFT platform idea. Not just buy my art, fund my vision. The meeting was tomorrow at 2 p.m., exactly when I should be identifying cadaver nerves in the lab. I looked around the exam room. 200 future doctors hunched over their papers, scribbling answers that would determine their worth in their family's eyes. The girl next to me was crying silently, tears dropping onto her answer sheet. The guy in front had stress hives climbing up his neck. This was supposed to be my dream. No, this was supposed to be my destiny. I stood up. The proctor looked at me, confused. Miss Sterling, you have 90 minutes remaining. I know, I said, leaving my exam booklet blank on the desk. Every head in the room turned to watch me walk out. Whispers followed me down the aisle. Is that Richard Sterling's daughter? What's she doing? Did she finish already? I left 150 blank questions behind and walked toward my first real answer. My phone buzzed again. The investor had increased his initial offer after reviewing my portfolio. Outside the medical school, Boston looked different somehow. Brighter, fuller of possibility. The Uber to Logan Airport cost $47. The flight to San Francisco cost $1,200. The look on the investor's face when he saw my work in person, that was priceless. I knew there would be hell to pay when I got home. I just didn't know they'd make me pay with everything. The dining room felt like a courtroom when I announced my decision. My father's fist hit the mahogany table so hard the wine glasses jumped. You did what? I withdrew from medical school, I repeated, keeping my voice steady despite the tremor in my hands. I'm pursuing digital art and tech development full-time. My mother stood up and walked out without a word. The silence she left behind was worse than any scream. James laughed, actually laughed, leaning back in his chair like he'd just heard the punchline to a cosmic joke. Digital art? He sneered. You're throwing away Harvard Medical for finger painting on computers? It's not finger painting. I have a platform concept. Investors interested. You're delusional, my father cut in, his face purple with rage. 4 generations of sterling doctors, and you want to be what? A starving artist playing with pixels? I'm already earning money. Real money. More than... That's not real work. He stood now, towering over me. That's playing games. That's digital garbage. You think that compares to saving lives? To continuing a legacy that took a century to build? Maybe I want to build my own legacy. The words hung in the air like a scalpel about to drop. My father's jaw clenched and unclenched. When he spoke again, his voice was deadly quiet. Then you're no daughter of mine. He walked to the front door and yanked it open. Get out. Dad, get out and stay out. The words echoed through the foyer, through the house that had never really been a home. You're not a Sterling anymore. We didn't sacrifice everything for you to become some tech nobody. Take your digital garbage and leave. My mother's silence from the kitchen was my answer. James smirked from his chair. Not one person defended me. 20 minutes. That's all they gave me to pack 23 years of life. My mother stood in my doorway with her phone, using the timer app like she was monitoring a surgical procedure. 15 minutes remaining, she announced, her voice clinical and detached. I threw clothes into 2 suitcases, my hands shaking as I grabbed my laptop, my drawing tablet, the external drives containing my entire digital portfolio. My Harvard Medical School acceptance letter fell from my desk. I left it on the floor. James appeared with his phone, snapping photos. Want to remember the day my sister chose poverty? He said, grinning. Maybe I'll use this for my chief residency speech. What not to do with privilege. 10 minutes. I packed faster, shoving in whatever I could reach: my childhood teddy bear, phone chargers, the one family photo where I actually looked happy, age 7, before I understood what being a Sterling meant. 5 minutes. Mom, I tried one last time. Please just let me explain. Time's up. She stepped aside to let me pass, her expression as blank as an unused surgical mask. Your father wants you gone, now. I dragged my suitcases down the stairs, each thump echoing through the house. My father stood by the door, holding it open. No goodbye, no last words, just cold silence and colder eyes. The door slammed behind me with a finality that shook my bones. I stood on the porch of the house where I'd grown up, suddenly homeless, suddenly orphaned by living parents. The Walmart parking lot in Medford became my bedroom that night. I curled up in the back seat of my Honda Civic, using my winter coat as a blanket, my suitcase as a pillow. The parking lot lights flickered through my windows like a heartbeat monitor, steady, persistent, alive. I was alive. $600 a month for a studio apartment in Alston, with water stains on the ceiling and a radiator that clanged like it was dying. After growing up in a Beacon Hill mansion, it should have felt like failure. Instead, it felt like freedom. I worked 3 jobs to survive: Starbucks at 5 a.m., freelance coding until 2 p.m., Uber driving until midnight. Then I'd come home and build my real future until 3 a.m., developing my NFT platform, creating art, networking with other digital artists who didn't care about my last name or my family's legacy. Ramen became my primary food group, 5 for $3 at the corner store. I learned 17 different ways to prepare instant noodles, adding eggs when I could afford them, hot sauce when I couldn't. My brother posted Instagram stories from Michelin-starred restaurants while I rationed peanut butter. But something magical happened in that roach-infested studio. My art evolved. Without the weight of family expectations, my creativity exploded. 3 enterprise clients signed contracts for my digital design services. My anonymous NFT drops started selling out in minutes. The platform prototype I'd pitched in San Francisco gained traction. "You're that Sterling girl who dropped out," my Starbucks manager said one morning, having seen the Boston Globe article my father had somehow orchestrated about when privilege goes wrong. "Yeah," I said, not bothering to correct the narrative. "Takes guts," she said, surprising me. "My daughter wants to be a doctor because I told her to. Seeing you follow your own path, maybe I should let her study music like she wants." That night, I ate my ramen with a different flavor. It tasted like validation, like proof that success isn't measured in stethoscopes or surgical scrubs. Sometimes it's measured in small victories, in $5 meals that taste better because you earned them yourself. Boston's medical community is smaller than you'd think. Within a week, everyone knew. The Sterling girl who threw away Harvard Medical. The ungrateful daughter who chose computer games over saving lives. My former classmates unfriended me in waves. The group chat I'd been part of since freshman year removed me without explanation. When I ran into my study partner at Whole Foods, she pretended not to see me, suddenly fascinated by organic avocados. "I heard she's selling drawings online," someone whispered at the coffee shop where I worked, not recognizing me in my barista apron. "Like those scam artists who trick people into buying digital nothing." My cousin's wedding invitation, which had arrived a month before my exodus, was formally rescinded via email. "Given recent family dynamics," it read, "we think it's best if you don't attend." My father had done his work well. At medical conferences, he'd perfected his narrative. "Sometimes children lose their way despite our best efforts. We pray Olivia finds her path back to respectability." My mother's version was simpler. She'd tell people she had one child, James, who was excelling in neurosurgery. I became the cautionary tale parents told their pre-med children. Don't be like the Sterling girl. All that privilege, all that opportunity, wasted on childish pursuits. But the whispers didn't hurt as much as the silence. No texts on my birthday, no calls during the holidays. My childhood best friend, Sarah, blocked me after her mother warned her about associating with failures. I screenshot every cruel message, every gossipy post, every public dismissal. Not for revenge, but for fuel. Each rejection became a pixel in the larger picture I was creating. They thought they were writing my story, but they were just providing the contrast that would make my eventual success shine brighter. The MIT hackathon ran for 48 hours straight. At hour 32, running on Red Bull and determination, I met Elena Mitchell. She was debugging code at the station next to mine, cursing creatively in 3 languages. "Your NFT marketplace concept," she said without looking up from her screen. "I heard your pitch. It's brilliant, but your smart contract architecture needs work." "I know. That's why I'm here at 2 a.m. trying to fix it." She finally looked at me, her purple-dyed hair falling across thick-rimmed glasses. "You're that Sterling who quit med school." I braced for judgment. Instead, she grinned. "My parents wanted me to be a concert pianist. I chose coding. They haven't spoken to me in 3 years." She rolled her chair over to my station. "Show me your back-end structure." We worked through the night, Elena fixing my code while I refined the user interface. By sunrise, we had a working prototype. By noon, we'd won second place. By dinner, we were planning a company. "I've got the technical skills, you've got the vision and design sense," Elena said over cold pizza in the parking lot. "We could actually build this." "I'm living on ramen and driving Uber," I admitted. "I can't pay you." "My parents cut me off when I dropped out of Juilliard," she laughed. "I'm surviving on hackathon prize money and freelance debugging. We're already broke. Might as well be broke together while building something revolutionary." Sometimes your real family finds you at 2 a.m. over cold pizza and broken code. Elena became more than my co-founder that night. She became my sister in rebellion, my partner in proving that success doesn't follow a prescribed path. We shook hands with greasy fingers, sealing a partnership that would eventually be worth millions. If you've ever been told your dreams weren't good enough, hit that like button. I'm curious, what did your family want you to become versus what you actually chose? Drop a comment below, and if you're new here, subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss what happens when success becomes the best response. Now, let me tell you about the moment everything changed. 6 months of 18-hour days led to one moment of pure magic. Elena and I launched our NFT platform MVP at 3 p.m. on a Tuesday. By 3:15, we had our first user. By midnight, we had 100. "Holy shit," Elena whispered, watching the real-time analytics. "They're actually using it, like real artists are uploading real work." We'd built something that didn't exist yet, a marketplace that made digital art accessible to non-crypto natives. Simple interface, integrated wallet, one-click purchasing. What others made complicated, we made human. Then TechCrunch found us. Disrupting digital art, how 2 dropouts built the NFT platform everyone actually wants to use. The headline appeared Thursday morning. By Thursday afternoon, our servers crashed from traffic. "This is bad," Elena panicked, frantically typing code to scale our infrastructure. "This is incredible," I corrected, watching error messages flood in. Our servers crashed from success, not failure, a problem I never learned to solve in anatomy class. We worked 72 hours straight to get back online. When we did, 5,000 artists were waiting to join. Major collectors started reaching out. A prominent gallery in New York wanted to feature our platform artists. But the sweetest moment came in a small notification. My anonymous art account, the one I'd hidden from my family for years, received a purchase request through our own platform. Someone wanted to buy the piece I'd created the night my father called my work digital garbage. They offered $5,000. I accepted the sale and watched the smart contract execute flawlessly. The money hit my account instantly. Real money for digital art, processed through the platform 2 dropouts built in a roach-infested apartment. My father was wrong. This wasn't garbage. This was the future. The screenshot arrived in my inbox on a Sunday morning. James had found the TechCrunch article and added his own caption. My sister sells JPEGs to idiots on the internet. How the mighty have fallen. He'd shared it in what I learned was the family group chat, the one they'd created after kicking me out. 47 relatives had seen it. The responses, forwarded by my one sympathetic cousin, ranged from pitying to cruel. Such a waste of potential, Aunt Catherine wrote. This is what happens when children aren't disciplined, Uncle Robert added. My father's response was the shortest and cut the deepest. Don't use the Sterling name for your digital garbage schemes. Then came the email from my mother. The first contact in 8 months. No greeting, no, how are you, just, your father's colleagues have seen that article. You're embarrassing us. When will you grow up and return to medicine? This phase has gone on long enough. Phase. Like my company was teenage rebellion instead of a registered Delaware C Corp generating 6 figures in monthly transaction volume. That evening, I discovered they'd blocked my phone number. Not just my parents, the entire extended family had coordinated a collective shunning. My childhood home's landline gave a "This number is not accepting calls from you" message. Digital garbage. That's what father called my first $1 million quarter, I told Elena, showing her our revenue dashboard. She looked at the numbers, then at the screenshot of my family's mockery. You know what? Let them laugh. We'll build something so big they'll choke on their words. I nodded, archiving the messages in a folder labeled Motivation. Every insult was fuel. Every dismissal was a reminder of why I'd chosen this path. They thought they were breaking me, but they were forging me into something harder, sharper, unstoppable. 30 venture capitalists in 14 days. Elena and I pitched until our voices went hoarse, survived on conference room fruit plates, and learned that Silicon Valley's favorite word is no. Interesting concept, but the NFT market is too niche. Come back when you have more traction. 2 female founders without technical degrees? Too risky. 29 rejections. Each one felt like my father slamming the door again. But we kept going, refining our pitch, adjusting our deck, practicing until we could present in our sleep. VC number 30 was different. Marcus Rodriguez from Tech Vision Corp didn't sit behind a massive desk. He met us at a taco truck in Palo Alto, bought us lunch, and actually listened. Show me the platform, he said simply. We did. Live demo, real transactions happening in real time. Artists from 30 countries, collectors from 50. Our monthly growth rate was 300%. You built this with no funding? Credit cards and ramen, Elena admitted. Marcus laughed, then got serious. I dropped out of Stanford Med myself. Parents didn't speak to me for 10 years. Now I run a $3 billion fund. He looked directly at me. I know that hunger, that need to prove them wrong. He offered $2 million for 20% equity, but there was a condition. You need to relocate to the Bay Area. This is where the ecosystem is. Boston will never understand what you're building. Leave Boston. Leave the last connection to my family, even if they'd severed it themselves. Start completely fresh 3,000 miles away. Yes, I said without hesitation. Elena nodded. When do we start? 29 no's taught me more than 4 years of pre-med ever could, I told Marcus as we shook hands. He smiled. The 30th yes is all that matters. By month 9, our platform hosted 10,000 active artists and processed 500,000 in monthly transactions. We hired our first employees, moved from Elena's garage to actual office space. Forbes reached out about a potential 30 under 30 nomination. But in Boston, I remained the cautionary tale. Saw your cousin at the hospital gala, my Starbucks manager told me during my last shift before moving west. She said you're still playing with computers in California. If only they knew. Our burn rate was controlled, revenue grew exponentially, major museums started partnering with us. The Museum of Modern Art in New York wanted to feature our platform artists in their first digital exhibition. I kept everything quiet, operating under my company name, never Sterling. The success felt sweeter in secret. like a diagnosis they hadn't seen coming. My LinkedIn showed digital artist and entrepreneur. No mention of the patents pending, the enterprise contracts, the acquisition interest we'd started fielding. "Why don't you tell them?" Elena asked one night as we reviewed our P&L showing our first profitable month. "Because they wouldn't believe it anyway. And when the time comes, the reveal will be that much more powerful." My aunt posted on Facebook about James's promotion to senior resident, calling him the pride of the Sterling family. The comments praised my parents for raising such an accomplished son. One mentioned me. Shame about the daughter, though. I liked the post from my anonymous account, then went back to reviewing the term sheet from a Fortune 500 company wanting to white label our technology. $3 million for a licensing deal. "I was on Forbes's radar while still on my family's blacklist," I told Elena. She raised her coffee mug. "To being underestimated." We toasted with ceramic mugs in our tiny office, two dropouts building an empire in exile. Marcus Rodriguez didn't make appointments. When he wanted to see you, his assistant called and you cleared your calendar. So when Elena burst into my office saying, "Marcus is in the lobby," we knew something massive was happening. He walked in carrying a single folder. No small talk, no pleasantries, just, "I want to buy your company." The room went silent. Elena's coffee mug stopped halfway to her lips. "Tech Vision wants to acquire you. Full purchase, $25 million. $25 million. The number had more zeros than my family thought I'd ever see. "That's," Elena started. "Life-changing money," Marcus finished. "You'd each walk away with over $12 million after taxes, at 28 and 26 years old." He opened the folder, revealing the terms. Clean deal. No earnouts. No complicated provisions. Just a straightforward purchase that would make us millionaires overnight. "There's one condition," Marcus said. "Complete confidentiality until we announce. No one can know. Not friends, not partners, not family. We announce in 30 days at TechConf. Can you keep this secret?" I almost laughed. My family hadn't spoken to me in 2 years. Who would I tell? "Why us?" I asked. "Why this much?" "Because you built something we couldn't. Our team of PhDs and engineers tried to create what 2 dropouts built in a garage. Sometimes hunger beats pedigree." He looked at me meaningfully. "Your father saves one life at a time in his OR. Your platform helps thousands of artists feed their families. Which legacy is bigger?" Elena and I looked at each other. 2 years of ramen, 2 years of rejection, 2 years of being called failures. "We'll take it," we said in unison. Marcus smiled. "Due diligence starts tomorrow. In 30 days, you'll be wealthier than most doctors make in a lifetime." The wire transfer hit my account at 2:47 p.m. Pacific Time, $12.5 million after taxes, legal fees, and Elena's equal split. I stared at the bank balance until the numbers blurred. More money than 4 generations of Sterling doctors had accumulated. "We actually did it," Elena whispered, looking at her own phone. The escrow papers weighed less than my med school rejection letter, but meant infinitely more. Each signature felt like writing a new family name, one I'd earned instead of inherited. 3 days later, I flew to Santa Fe. I'd always loved the art scene there, the way creativity lived in every adobe wall and sunset. The realtor showed me 17 properties. The 18th took my breath away. $22 million for 15,000 square feet of architectural poetry. Floor-to-ceiling windows framing the Sangre de Cristo Mountains. An art studio with perfect northern light. A home office overlooking gardens that looked like Monet paintings. "This is aggressive for a first purchase," the realtor said carefully. "I've been conservative my whole life," I replied, signing the offer. It got me disowned. Time to try something different. The seller accepted immediately. Cash offers tend to have that effect. I kept my Cambridge apartment for appearances, but Santa Fe became home. I hired movers to pack everything while I furnished my new life. Custom furniture, professional art studio equipment, a kitchen that had never known ramen. Standing in my new living room, watching the sunset paint the mountains purple, I felt something shift. This wasn't about proving my family wrong anymore. It was about proving myself right. My phone buzzed with a Google alert. James had published a paper about surgical interventions in pediatric trauma. 30 citations. I owned a platform that helped 30,000 artists. We measured success differently now. The email came through my company address, not my personal one. Massachusetts General Hospital's Charity Board, requesting the honor of my presence as a potential major donor for their annual gala. Dear Ms. Sterling, it began. They knew my last name, but not my connection. The invitation was based solely on a Forbes article about young tech millionaires revolutionizing art. I read it 3 times, my coffee growing cold. The gala was my father's crown jewel event. He'd chaired it for 15 years, raising millions for the hospital where he played God in Scrubs. Every medical elite in Boston would attend. My family would be at table 1. They always were. Elena found me staring at my laptop an hour later. You okay? I showed her the invitation. She whistled low. You going to accept? They want me to consider a major donation. They have no idea who I really am. Or maybe, Elena said slowly, this is the universe handing you the perfect stage. I thought about it for 3 days. The girl who'd been thrown out for choosing digital art over medicine. The disappointment who'd embarrassed 4 generations of Sterling doctors. Now invited back as a philanthropist they wanted to court. The irony was delicious. I replied on day 4. I'd be honored to attend and am prepared to make a significant contribution to your mission. The development director called personally within an hour. Ms. Sterling, we're thrilled. Might I ask what donation level you're considering? It helps us with recognition planning. $2 million, I said casually. Silence. Then, we, that would make you our largest individual donor this year. We'd be honored to have you speak during the program. I'd like that, I said. I have quite a story to share about following your passion. I chose black Valentino couture. $50,000 for a dress I'd wear once, but armor has its price. The stylist flew in from Los Angeles, bringing diamonds that could fund a startup. You look like money, she said, stepping back to admire her work. I look like revenge, I corrected, then caught myself. No, I look like success. Elena flew in from San Francisco the morning of the gala. You sure about this? I've never been surer of anything. We rehearsed my speech 17 times, not because I didn't know what to say, but because I needed to say it without anger, without bitterness. This wasn't about destroying them. It was about defining myself. The Bentley pulled up at exactly 6 p.m. I'd hired a driver, not for show, but because I knew my hands would shake. The envelope containing the $2 million check sat in my clutch, next to the TechVision acquisition announcement that would go live Monday. The Copley Plaza, ma'am? The driver confirmed. Yes, the Sterling Ballroom, actually. I almost laughed at the cosmic joke. Of course it was named after my great-grandfather. Elena squeezed my hand. You've got this. You're not the girl they threw out anymore. No, I agreed, watching Boston's medical district pass by the window. I'm the woman who built something from their rejection. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. Heard you're making waves tonight. Remember, success is the best revenge, but grace is the best victory. I turned off my phone. No distractions, no safety nets, just me, walking back into the world that had expelled me, wearing my achievements like armor and my dignity like a crown. The valet opened my door. Welcome to the Massachusetts General Hospital Charity Gala, miss. Thank you, I said, stepping out. It's good to be home. This moment changed everything. If you've ever had to choose between family expectations and your dreams, you're not alone. Share your story in the comments. I read every single one. And remember to subscribe if you want to see more stories about setting boundaries and choosing yourself. The aftermath of this night was something nobody expected. The Sterling Ballroom held 500 of Boston's medical elite, and every single one of them seemed to pause when I entered. Conversations stuttered, champagne flutes stopped mid-sip. The quartet missed a note. Table 1 sat directly in front of the stage, impossible to miss. My father, resplendent in his tuxedo with the chief of surgery pin. My mother, elegant in navy blue, her surgical hands wrapped around crystal. James, already drunk, gesturing wildly as he told some story about his latest publication. Then my mother's eyes found mine. The champagne glass stopped halfway to her lips. Her face went through a symphony of emotions: confusion, recognition, shock, and something that might have been fear. I walked past their table without acknowledgement, heading for the registration desk where the development director waited. "Miss Sterling, we're so honored you could join us. Your generosity is overwhelming." Behind me, I heard James's voice cut through the murmur. "Is that no fucking way?" The director guided me to table 3, strategic positioning for major donors. Close enough to the stage for recognition, perfect angle to see table 1's reactions. "The program begins in 30 minutes, she explained. "You'll be called up after the opening remarks. The board is thrilled about your announcement." I sat down, feeling the weight of hundreds of eyes. Whispers rippled through the room like diagnoses spreading through rounds. "Isn't that the Sterling girl who dropped out? What's she doing here? I heard she's in tech now. Richard looks like he's having a stroke." My father had indeed stood up, his face purple with either rage or shock. My mother grabbed his arm, forcing him back down. James pulled out his phone, frantically Googling. The prodigal daughter had returned, and the kingdom didn't know whether to celebrate or panic. The MC tapped the microphone, and 500 conversations died instantly. "Ladies and gentlemen, before we begin our program, I have the extraordinary pleasure of announcing something unprecedented in our Gala's 40-year history." My father straightened in his chair, probably expecting recognition for his years of service. "Tonight, we're honored to receive the largest individual donation ever made to this event, $2 million. Gasps rippled through the room. Applause started, confused but enthusiastic. "Please join me in welcoming our magnificent benefactor, Ms. Olivia Sterling, founder and former CEO of ArtChain Technologies." The applause cut off like someone had pulled a plug. The silence that followed was so complete, I could hear my heels on the parquet floor as I stood. My father shot up from his chair. My mother's hand flew to her throat. James dropped his phone, the crash echoing in the silence. I walked to the stage with measured steps, each click of my heels a countdown to revelation. The MC handed me the microphone with a confused smile. He clearly didn't understand the sudden tension. $2 million, I said, letting the number hang in the air like a diagnosis they never saw coming. I pulled the check from my clutch, holding it up for everyone to see. The room exploded in whispers. Camera phones appeared despite the no photography request. My father's colleagues at table 2 stared at him with expressions ranging from confusion to secondhand embarrassment. "Thank you for having me tonight," I continued, my voice steady despite my racing heart. "I have a rather unique perspective on the importance of following your calling, whether that's in medicine or elsewhere." My father sat down hard, like his legs had given out. My mother reached for her wine with shaking hands. James just stared, his mouth slightly open. The power dynamic in the room had shifted, and everyone felt it. 4 years ago, I sat at table 1 as a second-year Harvard medical student. I began, my voice carrying through the silent ballroom. "My father, Dr. Richard Sterling, told me that medicine wasn't just our profession. It was our identity, our gift to the world." I paused, making eye contact with him. He looked like he'd been slapped. He was right about one thing. We all have gifts to give the world, but sometimes those gifts come in packages our families don't recognize. When I left medical school to pursue digital art and technology, my father called it digital garbage. He told me to get out and stay out. The crowd's attention swiveled to table 1. My mother had gone pale. James was recording everything on his phone, probably for legal evidence later. That rejection became my fuel. The digital garbage became a platform that helps 30,000 artists worldwide sell their work. Last month, TechVision Corporation acquired my company for $25 million. The projection screen behind me lit up. I'd coordinated with the AV team. The TechVision acquisition announcement filled the screen, my photo next to Marcus Rodriguez's, the number prominent. Gasps, actual audible gasps. Someone dropped a glass. I stand here not as a Sterling who followed the prescribed path, but as someone who found their own. This donation isn't just money, it's a statement. Success isn't measured only in surgical procedures or medical degrees. It's measured in courage, in authenticity, in the lives you touch by being exactly who you're meant to be. I looked directly at my father. So tonight, I'm establishing the Sterling Freedom Scholarship, $2 million for students who choose to leave medical school to pursue their true passions. Because sometimes the best diagnosis is recognizing you're in the wrong operating room. The young residents started clapping first, then the nurses, then everyone except table 1. My father charged the stage before I could step down, grabbing a second microphone from the MC's table. His face had gone from purple to an alarming shade of red. "This is my daughter," he announced to the confused crowd, his voice booming with false pride. "We always knew Olivia would succeed, in her own way." The room went silent again, but this time with second-hand embarrassment so thick you could operate on it. "The Sterling family has always encouraged innovation," he continued desperately. "I personally taught her about business, about dedication." "You taught me what not to become," I said quietly into my microphone. He steamrolled forward. "Family disagreements happen, but we've always supported—" "You threw me out." My voice stayed calm, conversational. "You called my work garbage. You blocked my phone number. You told relatives I was dead to you." Someone in the audience gasped. Phones were recording everything now, despite the usher's attempts to stop them. That's a misunderstanding," he stuttered. "James, tell them—" James stood up, swaying slightly. "Dad, just stop. Please, you're making it worse." The revelation hung in the air. The great Dr. Richard Sterling, reduced to desperate lies in front of his entire professional community. "We could have celebrated together," my father tried one more time, his voice cracking. "The Sterling legacy continues, just in a different form. We're so proud." "The only thing you're proud of is the check I'm holding," I said. "And you're wondering how much of it you can claim. The answer is none. This donation goes to students whose families reject them for choosing their own paths. Students who need to know that being disowned doesn't mean being worthless." He stood there, microphone hanging limply in his hand, his reputation crumbling in real time. I gently took the microphone from my father's unresisting hand. He looked smaller somehow, diminished in front of the community he'd ruled for decades. "My family taught me one invaluable lesson," I said, addressing the room but looking at him. "They taught me exactly what family shouldn't be." I turned to the audience, seeing recognition in so many faces. The young resident who'd been crying in the bathroom, the nurse whose parents demanded she become a doctor, the administrator whose son had just come out and been disowned. Family isn't about blood or legacy. It's about who celebrates your dreams, not who demands you abandon them. It's about unconditional love, not transactional relationships where affection has a price tag. My mother stood up, perhaps to intervene, but I continued. "The Sterling Freedom Scholarship will provide full financial support, mentorship, and most importantly, a new family for those whose biological families fail them. Because no one should have to sleep in a Walmart parking lot for choosing their own path." My mother sat back down, her face crumbling. "I'm not here for reconciliation," I said firmly. "I'm here to ensure no other student goes through what I did. That rejection, that abandonment, it ends tonight." The development director approached with the ceremonial check. I handed it to her with both hands, the cameras capturing everything. $2 million. Not for the sterling legacy my father built, but for the one I'm creating. One where success is defined by authenticity, not obedience. I looked at my family one last time. You wanted me to save lives? I am. Just not the way you demanded. The standing ovation started in the back, spreading forward like a wave until everyone except Table 1 was on their feet. 500 people applauding the girl who'd chosen herself. The applause lasted 43 seconds. I counted every one. My parents left during second 16, my father pulling my mother toward the exit while she kept looking back. James stayed, slumped in his chair, still recording everything on his phone like evidence of a crime scene. The young resident swarmed me first. I've been thinking about leaving for computer science, one whispered. My parents would kill me. They might, I said. But you'll survive it. I did. The development director appeared at my elbow, face flushed with excitement. Ms. Sterling, that was unprecedented. The board would like to speak with you about the scholarship structure. Behind her, I saw Dr. Patricia Chen, the board chair, approaching. She'd been my father's colleague for 20 years. Olivia, she said quietly, pulling me aside. I owe you an apology. We all knew what happened when you left school. Richard told us his version. We believed him. She paused. I have a daughter in her 3rd year. She wants to be a teacher. I've been fighting her for 2 years. Call her tonight, I said. Before it's too late. James stumbled over, drunk enough to be honest. 25 million? Really? Really. I need... Dad's been pressuring me about this investment. I lost everything in crypto. 3 million gone. If you could... No. Simple. Clean. Final. His face went through the same stages as our father's. Shock, anger, desperation. We're family! We were family. You filmed me packing my life into garbage bags. You posted it online. You called it the day failure came home. He backed away, suddenly sobering. 10 more people approached with scholarship questions. 15 asked for my contact information. 3 board members formally apologized for believing my father's version of events. The kingdom had witnessed the coup, and they were choosing sides. By the time Elena and I got back to my hotel, the video had 2 million views. Someone at the gala had live-streamed everything despite the no-recording policy. Twitter had already created #MedSchoolDropout, and it was trending nationally. Holy shit, Elena breathed, scrolling through her phone. You're everywhere. CNN wants a statement. Forbes is calling you the $1 million revenge story. My inbox exploded with hundreds of messages. Medical students from Harvard, Johns Hopkins, Stanford, all sharing their own stories of family pressure, of dreams deferred, of sleeping in cars rather than submit to someone else's life plan. Listen to this one, Elena read aloud. I'm a 3rd year at Yale Med. My parents are both surgeons. I want to be a chef. After seeing your speech, I'm withdrawing Monday. Thank you for showing me it's possible. The hotel room phone rang, the front desk. Ms. Sterling? There are several reporters in the lobby requesting interviews. No interviews tonight, I said. The speech said everything. But the internet had its own plans. Someone found my old Instagram art account, the one I'd hidden from my family. My follower count jumped from 70,000 to 500,000 in 3 hours. Every piece I'd ever posted was being shared with captions like, "This is what they called garbage," and art that paid better than medicine. A notification popped up from Marcus Rodriguez. You just gave the best pitch I've never heard. This is why we invested in you, not the tech, the courage. Then, buried in the chaos, a text from an unknown Boston number. This is Mom. I stared at it for a long moment, then deleted it unread. Some bridges were meant to stay burned, their ashes fertilizing new growth. My inbox became a confessional for every suffocated dream. 47 missed calls from my father by morning. My mother had moved from texts to emails, each one longer and more desperate than the last. Olivia, there's been a terrible misunderstanding. We need to talk as a family about what happened last night. Your father's position at the hospital. Delete. Sweetheart, you don't understand the pressure we were under. James's debts, the family reputation. We only wanted what was best. Delete. James took a different approach, sliding into my DMs on every platform. Sis, amazing speech. Always knew you'd kill it in tech. BTW, have this sick investment opportunity. Could triple your money. Family discount? Block. Then came the extended family. Cousins who hadn't spoken to me in 4 years suddenly remembered we were related. My aunt, who'd disinvited me from her daughter's wedding, sent a gushing voice note about how she'd always believed in my artistic vision. The uncle who'd called me a disappointment at every family gathering now wanted to connect on LinkedIn with the message about Sterling family entrepreneurs supporting each other. It's amazing how $25 million can cure a family's amnesia, I told Elena over breakfast. What are you going to do? Nothing. They made their choice 4 years ago. I'm just honoring it. But they didn't stop. My father tried routing through the hospital board. My mother attempted contact through mutual friends. James even created a fake Instagram account to message me about his revolutionary medical app idea. Each attempt felt more desperate than the last. The family that had coordinated to exile me was now coordinating to reclaim me, not because they'd changed, but because my bank account had. The most honest message came from my grandmother. I'm not asking for money. I'm 93. I just want to know, was it worth it? Yes, I replied, every single moment. The formal letter arrived via courier to my hotel 3 days after the gala. Sterling family letterhead, the same stationery my father used for his chief of surgery correspondence. Dear Olivia, after reflection and family discussion, we've identified several opportunities for Sterling family collaboration. 1. James requires $3 million to cover investment obligations that threaten his medical license. 2. The hospital's new cardiac wing needs a naming donor. $5 million would secure the Sterling Innovation Center. 3. Your mother suggests establishing a family investment fund, pooling our resources for mutual benefit. We're prepared to publicly acknowledge your achievements and welcome you back into the family upon agreement to these terms. Love, Dad. Love. After itemizing exactly how much my love was worth, Elena read it over my shoulder. Did they seriously send you an invoice for family membership? The worst part was the attachment, a family investment proposal clearly drafted before the gala. They'd been planning this since they heard about the acquisition. The speech, the public humiliation, none of it mattered. I was just an ATM with their last name. James followed up with texts. Dad's serious about the medical license thing. I could lose everything. You wouldn't let your brother become homeless, right? My mother's approach was subtler. The family's financial advisor has some thoughts on protecting your wealth. We should meet. Mother knows best. They'd moved from denial to negotiation, but skipped directly over acknowledgement or apology. 4 years of silence, broken only by a price tag. The invoice for their love finally arrived, I told Elena, itemized and interest included. I photographed the letter, saving it alongside their rejection messages from 4 years ago. The contrast would make excellent evidence if they tried to claim we'd always been close. Some families passed down heirlooms. Mine had just tried to pass me a bill. Marcus called while I was drafting cease and desist letters with my lawyer. Saw the video, he said without preamble. That took guts. Also, your father called my office 17 times today. What? He found out I bought your company. Wanted to discuss family investment opportunities and protecting Olivia's interests. I had security escort him out after he refused to leave reception. I put him on speaker so Elena could hear. Marcus, I'm so sorry. Don't apologize. I need to tell you something. He paused. I was Stanford Med, class of '98, third-generation doctor, Mexican family, first to make it to Stanford. The pressure was crushing. I sat down slowly. Dropped out second year to code. My parents didn't speak to me for a decade, not until my first company sold for 50 million. Then suddenly I was their emprendedor brillante, their brilliant entrepreneur. They wanted to manage my money, invest in their friends' businesses, buy houses for relatives I'd never met. What did you do? Set boundaries, legal ones, financial ones, emotional ones. Your real inheritance isn't what they leave you, it's what you leave behind. The students you'll help, the artists on your platform, the example you set. That's your legacy. Did you ever reconcile? On my terms. After they acknowledged what they'd done. After they saw me as Marcus, not as a bank account. Took 15 years. He paused. Your speech last night? You just saved yourself a decade of therapy. Trust me. My father's now harassing you because of me. Your father's harassing me because he's desperate. There's a difference. The best decision I ever made was choosing myself. Looks like you just made the same choice. After he hung up, Elena said quietly, You're not alone in this. You know that, right? I know, I said. I've got the family I chose. The law firm of Patterson, Klein and Associates had an entire division dedicated to family wealth protection. Turns out, I wasn't their first client dealing with suddenly affectionate relatives. We'll need a three-pronged approach, the senior partner explained. Legal boundaries, financial firewalls, and personal security protocols. The cease and desist letters went out that afternoon. Formal, detailed, unambiguous. Any further contact would be considered harassment. Any attempts to leverage my name or success would result in legal action. Any public claims of support or involvement in my success would be met with defamation suits. Boundaries aren't walls you build out of anger, I told Elena as we reviewed the documents. They're gates you install out of wisdom. We changed my phone number, keeping the old one active just to document their continued attempts. 300 texts in the first week. I set up email filters routing family messages to a folder my lawyer monitored. The Santa Fe house got a security upgrade. Cameras, gates, a service that screened all deliveries. Not because I was afraid, but because James had already tried to show up at my California office, telling security he was there for a family business meeting. My financial advisor created what she called fortress accounting. Trusts, LLCs, and legal structures that made my assets untouchable. Your brother has gambling debts to some unpleasant people, she warned. He's been telling them about his millionaire sister. The hardest boundary was the emotional one. I had to stop checking what they were saying, stop wondering if they'd changed, stop hoping for the apology that would never come. You're not cutting them off, my therapist reminded me during our video session. They cut you off 4 years ago. You're just making it official. The paperwork was filed. The boundaries were set. The gates were locked. I was finally, legally, free. The Sterling Freedom Scholarship officially launched 6 weeks after the gala. $500,000 per year for 10 students who chose passion over pressure. The first recipient was supposed to be anonymous, but she insisted on going public. My name is Jennifer Wu, she said at the press conference. I was pre-med at Harvard, just like Olivia. My parents wanted a doctor. I wanted to be a chef. The night I saw her speech, I withdrew from medical school. Today, I'm opening my first restaurant with the scholarship's support. Every scholarship was a key to someone else's prison. The applications flooded in. Pre-law students who wanted to be teachers, business majors dreaming of social work, engineers who yearned to write. Each story broke my heart and healed it simultaneously. We're not just funding career changes, I told the selection committee. We're funding courage. The program included more than money. Mentorship from successful career changers. Therapy to deal with family rejection. Legal resources for those facing financial manipulation. A community of people who understood that sometimes love comes with unacceptable terms and conditions. My father tried to claim credit, sending a press release about the Sterling family's commitment to educational innovation. My lawyers shut it down within hours, but not before several news outlets picked up the real story. how the scholarship's founder had been disowned by the very family whose name it bore. "You're giving them what you needed," Elena said, watching me review applications. "A lifeline when everyone else lets go." The 10th recipient was a neurosurgery resident who wanted to become a musician. During his acceptance speech, he looked directly at the camera and said, "To anyone whose family makes them choose between love and dreams, choose yourself. Love that demands you shrink isn't love at all." My phone buzzed. Another text from my father. Delete. 1 year later, I stood in my Santa Fe office reviewing the numbers. The second startup Elena and I built had just sold for $40 million. The scholarship had 50 recipients thriving in their chosen fields. My family was still telling people I was taking a gap year. "They actually said that?" Elena laughed, reading the Boston Globe's profile of my father. "It's been 5 years since you left medical school." "Denial is a powerful drug," I said, signing documents for our next venture. The family attempts had evolved from desperate to pathetic. My father now sent quarterly emails about reconciliation opportunities. My mother left voicemails on my old number every birthday and holiday. James had been arrested for fraud, something about selling fake investment opportunities, using my success as credibility. "Your brother's in the papers again," Elena showed me her phone. The headline read, "Son of prominent Boston surgeon charged with securities fraud." The article mentioned me once. His sister, tech entrepreneur Olivia Sterling, could not be reached for comment. Could not be reached. The most honest thing written about our relationship in years. I'd been invited to speak at Harvard Medical School's graduation. The dean, who'd once called my father to express concern about Olivia's choices, now wanted me to inspire students to think beyond traditional paths. "You should do it," Elena encouraged. Full circle moment. "Maybe next year," I said, "when it's about them, not about proving something to my family." That evening, I hosted dinner for the scholarship recipients. 50 people around my Santa Fe table, sharing stories of liberation and loss, triumph and transformation. Jennifer's restaurant had a 3-month wait list. Another recipient's art was being exhibited at MoMA. "They still tell people I'm taking a gap year," I told them. "Let them," Jennifer said. "We know the truth." We all did. I was in Boston for a conference when it happened. A small coffee shop in Cambridge, far from the hospital district. I was reviewing my keynote speech when someone sat down at my table. My mother. She looked older, smaller. Her hands, those precise surgical instruments, trembled around her coffee cup. "Please," she said, "just 5 minutes. I've home." "You had 23 years," I replied, not looking up from my laptop. "Olivia, She stopped, started again. "Your father doesn't know I'm here. That's not my concern anymore. James is in prison." "I know. Your father had a heart attack. Minor, but—" "Mom!" I finally looked at her. Really looked. The woman who'd counted down my eviction. Who'd stood silent while my father destroyed me. "What do you want?" "To say I'm sorry." The words hung between us like a bridge I had no intention of crossing. "I was wrong. We were wrong. I see that now." "You see it now because I'm successful. Would you be here if I was still sleeping in my car?" Her silence was my answer. "I looked at my mother and saw a stranger who happened to share my DNA," I said quietly. "That's all we are now. Strangers with a shared history that ended 4 years ago. Can't we try?" "We did try. You tried to throw me away. I tried to survive it. We both succeeded." I closed my laptop and stood. "I wish you well, but I wish you gone more." She was crying when I left. Part of me felt something, maybe pity, maybe grief for the mother I'd never really had. But I kept walking. Some bridges weren't meant to be rebuilt. They were meant to be monuments to the distances we've traveled. That night in my hotel, I wrote them a letter. All of them. Everything I'd never said, couldn't say, wouldn't say to their faces. "Dear family, you taught me that love is conditional, that worth is measured in degrees and diplomas, that choosing yourself is betrayal. You taught me these lessons so well that when you withdrew your love, I wasn't even surprised. Just broken. But broken things either stay broken or become something else. I became something else. You want to know if I forgive you? I do. Not for you, but for me. Carrying anger is like gripping a scalpel blade. It only cuts the one holding it. I forgive you for not knowing how to love me as I am. I forgive you for seeing my dreams as threats to your legacy. I forgive you for choosing reputation over relationship. What I can't do is forget, or pretend, or return to a table where my place was always conditional. You call my success spite. Maybe it started that way, but it became purpose. Every scholarship recipient, every artist on my platform, every young person who sees my story and chooses themselves, that's my legacy. Not sterling medical excellence, sterling human courage. I hope James finds peace in prison. I hope Dad's heart heals. I hope Mom finds her voice. I hope you all find whatever you're looking for. Just don't look for it in me. Olivia. I read it once, twice. Then I held it over the hotel room sink and burned it, watching the words turn to ash and wash away. Some letters are meant to be written, not sent. Some bridges are meant to stay burned. The smoke detector didn't even go off, as if the universe understood that some things needed to be released into nothing. Thanksgiving at my Santa Fe house looked nothing like the Sterling family dinners of my childhood. No medical journals at the table, no competitive recitations of surgical victories, no one keeping score of who was worth more to the world. Elena arrived first, bringing her new girlfriend and a catastrophically ugly pie she'd made herself. Marcus flew in with his wife and kids, who immediately took over my art studio to finger paint. 10 scholarship recipients drove up together, calling themselves the orphans, with pride instead of pain. We cooked together, badly. Jennifer tried to save us with her chef skills, but even she couldn't rescue Elena's pie. We laughed until our stomachs hurt, told stories that had nothing to do with achievement, played board games that no one kept score of. "What are you thankful for?" Marcus's 8-year-old asked during dinner. "Chosen family," I said without hesitation. "The people who love you because of who you are, not despite it." We toasted with champagne that didn't taste like obligation. No one mentioned degrees or titles or net worth. When Jennifer's girlfriend proposed during dessert, we all cried happy tears that had nothing to do with professional milestones. Later, as we sat around the fire pit watching the sun set over the mountains, Elena said, "You know what the difference is between this and your old family dinners?" "Everything?" "Joy," she said simply. "There's actual joy here." She was right. The Sterling family dinners had been performances, each of us playing our assigned role. This was real, messy, imperfect, genuine. We weren't bound by blood or obligation or the weight of 4 generations. We were bound by choice, by respect, by the radical act of accepting each other fully. "We should do this every year," Jennifer suggested. "We will," I promised. "The family you choose is the family you keep." The letter from Harvard Medical School arrived on a Tuesday. They wanted to name me Distinguished Alumni of the Year. The irony was so thick I could operate on it. "You never graduated," Elena pointed out, reading over my shoulder. "They're counting my contributions to innovative thinking in medical education," I laughed, meaning my scholarship helps their dropout statistics. But it made me think about legacy. That word my father wielded like a scalpel. 4 generations of sterling doctors, he'd said. Our gift to the world. My platform now supported 47,000 artists across 60 countries. They fed their families with digital art my father called garbage. The scholarship had funded 73 dreams that would have died in traditional classrooms. My second company employed 500 people, offering health insurance better than most hospitals. The Sterling name finally stood for something sterling, I told Elena, just not what they intended. A young artist messaged me that day. "Your platform saved my life. I was going to kill myself rather than go to law school. Now I'm supporting my whole family with my art." That was legacy. Not a name on a hospital wing or a paragraph in a medical journal. Real lives changed. Real dreams funded. Real courage modeled. My father saved one life at a time in his OR, carefully, precisely, within the sterile confines of protocol. I'd helped save thousands by showing them that walking away wasn't failure. It was the first step toward authenticity. You know what's funny? Elena said. You did follow in your father's footsteps. You're saving lives, just not the way he demanded. She was right. The Sterling legacy continued, redefined, reimagined, and finally, truly Sterling. Success wasn't about being yourself, despite your family's expectations. Success was being yourself, fully. The company holiday party filled the Santa Fe Convention Center. 500 employees, scholarship recipients, platform artists, and the investors who'd believed in a medical school dropout with wild dreams. Everyone together for the photo, the photographer called. We arranged ourselves in front of the massive digital display showing our platform's global reach. Elena to my right, Marcus to my left. Jennifer and her wife in front. The scholarship recipients surrounding us like a constellation of reclaimed dreams. Say success, someone shouted. Say freedom, another countered. We said both, laughing as the camera captured 500 smiling faces. Not one of them shared my blood. All of them shared my vision. The photo came out perfect, genuine joy radiating from every face. I had 500 copies printed, one for every person there. But I had one extra made, specially framed, with a particular recipient in mind. The holiday card was simple. The photo on the front, inside just one line, "From the family you chose to lose, Olivia." I sent it to my parents' Beacon Hill address, knowing my father would open it, knowing my mother would stare at it, knowing James would hear about it eventually in prison. 500 people who called me family by choice, not chance. 500 people who celebrated my dreams instead of demanding I abandon them. 500 faces proving that love isn't about DNA. It's about choosing to show up for each other, authentically and unconditionally. My phone buzzed. Another scholarship application, another artist joining the platform, another life about to change. I looked at the photo one more time before heading back to work. This was my inheritance, not what they left me, but what I built from their leaving. The Sterling legacy lived on, just not in any operating room. It lived in every dream that refused to die. Thank you for listening to my story. If this resonated with you, please share it with someone who needs to hear that their dreams matter more than others' expectations. What boundaries do you need to set in your life? Let me know in the comments. Subscribe for more stories about choosing yourself. And remember, sometimes the family that raises you isn't the family that raises you up.